Hi everybody, I'm Bill Evans and we're here at the Fretboard Journal Central in the Seattle, Washington area. Welcome to my wonderful world of banjos here. I'm going to give you a very compressed stylistic history of banjo music over 250 years. Are you ready to go? We're going to move fast, so hold on to your hat. I want to introduce you to this instrument here, which is called an akonting. It's from Senegambia, and it is considered to be one of the predecessors of the banjo, although it is a living tradition today. This particular instrument was made by Paul Sedgwick in the Boston area, and we have 3 strings made of fishing wire. And one thing that is common to the akonting with all of the banjos that I brought here today is we've got that short string on top here in convenient position to the thumb, and of course that's something that's really characteristic of the banjo. And with this particular instrument, traditionally only the top string is fretted, and you have a mode that sounds like that. I'll play a real simple children's piece for you on this instrument. Now you can see, especially if you're a clawhammer or old-time banjo player, the playing technique is just like clawhammer. I'm wearing a plastic finger pick here from Riley Bogus, by the way, because I can't grow fingernails very well or successfully. But this technique is just like clawhammer banjo, and that's how this particular African instrument is played. Well, the first reports of banjos in the New World, African banjos, date all the way back to the late 1500s. It's a long time ago. Well, by the mid-19th century, the 1850s, the banjo was, along with the fiddle, the most popular folk instrument in America. This instrument here is a replica of one of the first factory-made banjos, a William Boucher of Baltimore, Maryland. He was a drum maker, and this is a little more than a drum on a stick. By this time, we have a combination of European ideas about instrument sound and instrument construction and African ideas. The African parts of this banjo being the stretched animal skin and the high drone string on top, and then some of the European elements, some nice fiddle tuning pegs, a decorative neck. These curly cues serve as position markers if you ever dare go that high up the neck, and some metal on the banjo. The playing style that was popular in the mid-19th century was called the stroke style. And keeping in mind the African piece that I just played, stroke style is also owes a lot to, when we think of clawhammer or frailing banjo today, it's the same playing technique. Moving down across the string with the index finger and then catching other notes with your thumb. The sound of minstrel banjo, though, is quite a bit different than clawhammer. We know what this music sounded like because the banjo was so popular in these years that instructional manuals were published that had a bunch of pieces in them. And I'm going to play you a couple of pieces right now. One is called the Whoop Jamboree, and the other is Injun Rubber Overcoat from 1854 in minstrel style. So this is the minstrel banjo from the mid-19th century. That playing style probably crossed over from African and African-American culture to white culture in the early 1800s. By the 1840s, there was the phenomenon of the minstrel show, which was usually white performers, exclusively white performers until the close of the Civil War, in blackface, performing with fiddle, banjo, bones, and tambourine, and the music that would have been played on the minstrel stage would have sounded quite a bit like that. Minstrel banjo was very popular. It brought the banjo to England and also to California with the gold rush. In 1865, or somewhere close to that, a man named Frank B. Converse introduced what was called the guitar style to the banjo. The guitar style is simply also sometimes called up-picking, and that's where instead of the fingers moving down, as we do in clawhammer or frailing banjo today, we pick up like one might do in Scruggs style. This was introduced formally in 1865 with Frank B. Converse's manual tutorial, and he called it guitar style. And this ushered in a whole new way of thinking about playing music on the banjo, although it's quite likely that folks did it before Frank B. Converse. A book oftentimes codifies something that had already been in practice for quite a while. Well, also, frets started to come in a little bit later in the 1880s. And so with frets and this up-picking style, there came a movement to make the banjo more genteel and acceptable to growing Victorian society. And so in these years, the banjo would be an instrument of leisure, oftentimes played by women. This is a very fine example of a Vega White Lady No. 7, made in Boston, 1917. A little bit unusual because it has a 12-inch pot, but you could see some very, very beautiful engraved inlay on the banjo and a carved heel. This would have been a status symbol of the Victorian home, kind of similar to the 90-inch flat-screen television or a couple of Lexuses in the driveway, or that Gibson Les Paul that might be in your studio. And as I was indicating before, women of the household often learned to play the banjo in this style that is today called classic banjo. And in these years, the instrument became known as it is known today, of course, as the instrument of love. And so when a Victorian woman wanted to make her emotions known to a Victorian man, she couldn't do it overtly, she had to be covert. So she would bring the banjo out to play, and the underlying passion and carnality of the banjo would communicate her innermost physical desires. And in most cases, the women, you never needed to learn the last section of a piece, frankly. So I'm going to play you just a couple of pieces, a couple of sections from a very long piece from 1871, Home Sweet Home with Variations by Frank B. Converse. Pretty fancy stuff for 1871, huh? All right, well, we're going to take a huge jump forward now and take a look at my favorite banjo of all the ones that I own. This is a Gibson Flathead Granada, 1930. And this is considered by many to be kind of like the holy grail of bluegrass banjos, although lots of folks play RB3s or RB75s, and I tell you folks, there really is something great and unique about the sound of these old Gibson flatheads. Each one is different, of course, because the way that they would pour the metal tone ring would be a little bit different with each batch, and the combination of the wood and the metal makes a difference as well. But Granadas are typically maple banjos, maple resonator, maple neck, and gold plating. And many people feel that the gold plating offers just kind of a way to soften the sound, make it very bell-like, on top of what is essentially a bluegrass-sounding banjo. In tribute to Earl Scruggs, I want you to hear just one of my favorite of Earl's pieces on this Granada, and Earl played a Granada as well. This is a little darling pal of mine. And these days, of course, you know, beginning with Bela Fleck, but actually, you know, before Bela Fleck, there was a banjo player named Buck Trent who worked with oh, I'm forgetting who he worked with. Maybe Buck Owens in the 1960s, who played electric banjo. Doug Dillard played an electric banjo. These days, you've got a lot of choices with electric banjos. Deering has made a model for many years. It's very popular. Tom Neckville has a popular model. This is built by someone who was featured in Fretboard Journal not too long ago, a Canadian builder named Allan Beardsell, who makes very unique looking and sounding instruments. And this particular electric banjo was a project between Allan and Henry Kaiser, the Oakland, California experimental guitar player, and myself. And I simply wanted an electric banjo that didn't sound like a banjo. I wanted kind of a fat electric guitar sound. And so we take the head away. Many electric banjos actually have some kind of head, like on these other instruments, but this is all a wooden top. And so you're going to get something here, in this case, that sounds very much like a guitar, but played like a banjo. See if you recognize this song. Who knows what banjos will look like 100 years from now, but I hope that they have that high fifth string that's an African characteristic, and I hope that it's still played in some semblance of Scruggs style today, 2 fingers and a thumb. Earl's contribution to the instrument can't be overestimated, whether we play our music on electric banjo or a Gibson master tone or one of the other instruments out there. So I hope you enjoyed this crash course history in the banjo. Come visit me at www.billevansbanjo.com. I hope to see you soon. Thanks to Fretboard Journal.